return to the Properties menu. Checklist. The checklist is a list of tasks that can be applied to a property for follow-up action. Default lists allow you to create lists of items ahead of time so that they can be added to a property for tracking. There is also a calendar where items that are due for any property will appear. This easily creates a daily task list so that important items are not missed. Default items for checklists can be set up in the Properties tab under Checklist Setup. ProGold has a sample list created with few items. The description of the item is entered in the field Item, Letter. To the left of that is the vendor that is associated with this item. None is selected by default. Category determines when this item applies. Select Seller if this item applies when you have the listing side and are representing the seller, and select Buyer when you have the selling side and are representing the buyer. This allows you to create one list that has items that will apply in either situation. The fields for days and trigger affect how the due date of the item will calculate when a list is applied to a property. Trigger selects what date within the property to use. List date, sale date, close date, etc. Days determines how many days before or after the trigger this item is due. For example, entering 5 into the days field and selecting the trigger as list date would mean this item is due 5 days after the list date. For an item due 10 days prior to the expiration date, enter a -10 into the days field and select expire date for the trigger. Responsible party allows you to select who will be responsible for completing an item. The first drop-down includes the options Listing Agent, Selling Agent, and Other. Selecting the listing or selling agent will send the item to the agent's ViewMyListing.com account and will email the agent when the item is due. When Other is selected, the drop-down below allows for the selection of a specific staff member. Names can be added to this drop-down in the Setup menu under Change Company Info and Lists too. Different lists can be created with as many items as you choose to add. To create a new checklist, click the New button in the bottom of the screen. Enter a name for the list in the title field and enter the items that will appear on this list. Once checklists are created, they are added to a property through the Work with Properties icon. Select a specific property and look to the buttons in the bottom right corner. The Checklist button allows you to see the checklist items for this property. If no item has already been added, then a prompt will appear asking you to assign a checklist. Once a list is assigned, the items with their due dates are viewed from this area. New items or new checklists can also be selected from the screen by clicking on the New Item or New List buttons at the bottom. The list for this property can also be printed out by selecting one of the print options. Click Done to close the checklist screen and Done to return to the main property menu. Checklist items to be completed can also be viewed through the checklist calendar. This allows you to select a particular day and view which items for any property need to be completed on that day. At the top of the screen is a drop-down to select items assigned to a specific person, and clicking on a day brings a list of items on the right side of the screen. Items can be marked as completed through this screen, or you can go to the actual property and complete them through the Checklist tab. To print out a list of the items due, select the Print button at the bottom of the screen. Click Done to return to the Properties menu. Document storage. Document storage is an optional feature of ProGold. In order to upload documents, the company must have a company license with ViewMyListing.com. Documents are stored and viewed per transaction. In Work with Properties, select a property from the search screen. In the bottom right area is a button for document storage. If no documents have been stored for this transaction, the button will be red. Select the button and a screen will appear with the document storage terms of use. In order to load documents, the terms of use must be accepted by selecting Accept Terms in the bottom right corner and selecting Submit Terms. The document storage button will now be green and documents can be uploaded. Click on Document Storage and browse to the location of the document that you wish to upload. Once the document has been selected, Enter a name for the document and click Add Document. The document will upload and be added to the list on the right side of the screen. This document can then be viewed by clicking on the View button next to the entry. Close out of the screen to return to the property, and select Done to close the property and return to the Properties menu. Properties in ViewMyListing.com. ViewMyListing.com gives agents the ability to manage property information, showings, task items, and documents. Each time an agent logs into ViewMyListing.com, they are brought directly into the Properties tab. A property is selected by clicking on it, and the profile will appear at the right side of the screen. The top of the screen shows a summary, and more information can be seen by scrolling to the bottom of the page. The information can come from ProGold and/or the MLS. The Activity tab displays the events or activities that have been entered on this property. A brief version of this information is available to the seller on the progress report. Items are entered by the office through ProGold and can also be added here. The Checklist tab shows what items need to be taken care of on the property. When the items are due, they appear on the daily calendar and the agent receives an email notification. The agent can mark items completed through the Checklist tab in ViewMyListing.com. The Documents tab applies to document storage, which is an optional feature. Agents can load documents into ViewMyListing.com for storage and can also view documents that have already been loaded by the office. Along the left side of the screen are some property reports for the agent to run. The progress report shows the activity for a selected property. The transaction report is a production report that shows the agent their current listings and pendings, along with their closed properties for a selected date range. The options in this tab help the agent to better manage their property information. Before moving on to the next topic, either enter your properties into ProGold or review the properties that were imported. Also, set up your checklist if you're planning on using it to track items needed for your transactions. If you have any questions on this topic, contact Tarot Systems Enhancement HelpNet Center at support@tarotnetwork.com.